Here we go. This is Skip One-on-One, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Buckle up for some hot hoops discourse. We're going to talk about the finals. We're going to talk about LeBron and the Lakers and KD's future and Russ's future and Caitlin Clark's impact. Matt Barnes knows basketball. He knows the NBA because he played 14 years for 12 teams. That included the Lakers and the Warriors. He did win a ring with the 2017 Warriors. He started 359 NBA games, and he did score a career-high 36 points for the Warriors back in 2007. You know him from All the Smoke, as well as many other media appearances. I know him as smart and fearless. Welcome, Matt Barnes.
Kip, how you doing?
Great. All right. Let's talk some. Well, you know what? Before we get to the finals, I'm curious. I was looking at it last night. You did score 36 points at Memphis on January the 3rd of 2007. What do you remember about that night?
I just had it rolling that night. I think what I remember most was after the fact. I remember we were on a road trip, and I don't know if something happened to my luggage, and I came down the next day, and after a big game, Nelly let me wear his coat because I came down to the morning meeting and his coat smelled like cigar smoke and whiskey. And I just remember him like, here, no, take my coat. I'm like, no, coach, it's okay. I'm good. He's like, no, I insist. So he almost kind of made me wear his coat the next morning when we had a morning meeting to play the next team. But it was
weird.
just, one of those nights where, the ball was going in and, I had a good time.
I think you did. Remember, Mike Miller had a maybe better time that night because he made 9 threes.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
I remember
he made
that.
9 out of 12 threes.
I do. Yeah. I think they won the game too, if I'm not mistaken. I think
by
they beat
9
us.
they won, but it was at their place, and they were pretty good. Yeah, but you had Baron Davis and company. You were pretty good.
That was early in our season. Yeah, that was early. That was before the trade for Stack and Al Harrington had kind of hit. So we were kind of, bottom of the West majority of the season until after All-Star or right before All-Star break, we made the trade. Struggled a little bit post All-Star break, and then I want to say we won maybe 19 out of 23 games to get the last spot in the playoffs that year.
And history happened at that point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, it did. So how would you describe yourself as a basketball player to somebody who'd never seen you play?
I was a football player that lucked up and was able to have a professional career in basketball. My first love was football. Played football growing up. Was a tremendous All-American receiver. Was recruited to play football as well, but just at the time, I didn't see anybody 6'8" in the NFL. So I thought that I might have had a little better shot at trying to make the NBA. So I had to work. Basketball was a lot more. I had to work a lot harder at basketball than I did football. But I'm happy that I stuck it out and made something of 14 years in that league. That not too many guys get an opportunity to do.
I did not know you were that good. I knew you played football, but you were really, really good at high school football.
Yeah, football is my first love, man. I grew up playing football constantly. As I continued to get bigger, I kind of transitioned into basketball, junior high-ish. But yeah, from the time I can remember, 5 years old, outside playing tackle football with the neighborhood kids, it was natural. And in high school, actually, I didn't play tackle football though. Interesting thing is, any organized football I played was always flag because my parents were scared to allow me to play tackle. Then once I got to high school, they said, if you want to play tackle, you can now. I didn't play my freshman year, but then my sophomore year, I started playing and then got pulled up to varsity for those playoffs. And then my junior and senior year in football, I just completely dominated.
Well, I would think you'd be uncoverable at, I don't know if you're 6'8" yet at that point, if you're still growing, but you're 6'6" or 6'7".
Yeah.
So, I know you can run because I've seen you run. So,
yeah, I was 6'8", and I had the 39-inch vert. I ran a 4.39 at the UNLV high school combines. I can really run routes. I can run through people or run around them or jump over them. So, we had fun. I think my senior year, my quarterback threw 44, 46 touchdowns, and 28 of them were to me. I led the nation in touchdowns that year and had a record that stood for a handful of years. I want to say it was broken maybe 8 years ago, if I'm
Huh.
not mistaken.
And
Yeah.
how hard were you recruited to play football?
I was recruited to play football as well. To a lot of the big schools. UCLA was something I always really wanted to do. I got a chance to go to UCLA during when I came down to LA for a pump camp. There was a pump camp when I was maybe about 15 years
Yeah.
old, and I came down and we took a tour of UCLA, and I saw the women and just the beautiful weather and the beach and all that, and I was sold. But I never committed until I want to say the end of my junior year. But oddly enough, because I played football, basketball, baseball, and track, I never took my visits to any school, to be honest with you. I was just always in another sport, and I was really kind of a homebody at the time. So
Yeah.
committed to UCLA, didn't actually take an official visit till after I committed. And man, that visit to Westwood that night, I hung out with the guys. They took me to a bar, gave me a few drinks, and I knew I'd made the right decision.
Well, did they want you to play football?
So initially there was an opportunity to play both. I stuck with basketball. Then after my sophomore year, I with Coach Toledo was still there. I actually went out after my sophomore year and did a little bit of the spring ball with the
Did you
guys.
really?
And
Wow.
yeah, was really interested in playing and went back to talk to the basketball coach at the time, which was Steve Lavin
Yeah.
and the AD, and it almost seemed like I had to jump through hoops to play football. You're going to have to change dorms, and you're probably not going
Yeah.
to start, and you're probably not going to be a captain. This is what they were saying for the basketball team, and I'm just like, all this because I wanted to play football. So,
Huh.
long story short, I did spring ball for about a week and a half, and just ended up sticking to basketball.
How did you play in spring ball? Did you feel like you were dominating?
I mean, I wasn't dominant. There was probably a few years of rust, and never want
Yeah.
to seem like, yeah, you could just jump right in and do it. I was fine. I caught the ball fine. I ran my routes. I made catches. I made the plays that were thrown to me. But obviously, I had a lot to learn if I was going to really jump
Yeah.
into college football. But again, I kind of felt like me taking this to the basketball coach and the AD, and they made it a little harder than I thought they would make it for me to play. So I
Yeah.
just stuck with hoop. Yeah,
I mean, everybody talks about LeBron playing football, and I'm sure he
yeah.
could have at a very high level. Do you
hmm
think you made the right choice?
I think that I would have been because obviously I was a journeyman role player in the NBA, very aware of who I was in the league. I think in the NFL, I would have been definitely more of an impactful
You would have
player.
been. I agree.
But I don't know if I would have if I would have been able to have the longevity that I had in on the NBA court. Again,
Agreed.
this
Yeah.
is back in the early 2000s when they were still hitting, and it wasn't really, there wasn't all these rules where you couldn't do this. You just got to be careful going
Yeah.
over the middle back in those days. So I think I made the right decision. There's not a day I don't think about that until
Really?
still to this day. I mean, Sunday
Wow.
is, I go to church now, but after that, it's football. I love football. I've always been a huge fan. I'm a 49er fan and just a fan of the game. So football still to this day is my favorite sport.
Huh. Harold Carmichael back in the
Yep.
day for the
Six,
Eagles was
seven,
6'7" ish.
six,
Some
seven.
people said he
Yeah.
was 6'8". I don't know, but he
Yeah.
was like freaky tall for the
Yep.
game, and
Yep.
yet he's a big moving target going over the
Yep.
middle. He's pretty easy to find and sort of
hmm
quote unquote cut in two. So I don't know. Maybe longevity wise, you did better this way.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Matt Barnes, let's talk finals. A whole lot of people aren't watching the finals. They haven't rated well on television, maybe on course to be one of the worst, if not the worst ever in ratings. What's your interest level? Scale of 1 to 10, how watchable have the finals been for you so far?
I've watched every game except one because
Okay.
I couldn't. I was traveling, but
Yeah,
again, I knew it was interesting you said that because I knew that obviously this is a big market world, and both these are small markets, although they have tremendous young talent. And
they do.
I
Yeah,
think Skip, we saw the passing of the torch right in front of our eyes this year in the
right in front of
playoffs
our
with
eyes. I
the
agree.
older guys, including Kevin Durant the season before, LeBron and Steph both losing to Ant on the way, and then just the
Yep,
way Shea's played, Jalen Brunson's played, obviously the way Tyrese and his team have played.
yep.
But to answer your question, I think it's been entertaining. What I find most appealing in these finals is Indiana's late game heroics, but
Yep.
just how hard Oklahoma City plays defense. And I'm a defensive guy, and I feel
Yes, you
like
are.
that's what's kind of disappeared from the game since I left is the physicality and the defense. But I really feel like this finals or excuse me, this playoffs, Oklahoma City has definitely brought that intensity back on the defensive end with two all defensive performers, arguably three if what's his name Caruso plays enough games. But even
Yep.
that, just they play on a string, they communicate, they make the second and third efforts. They get their first to 50-50 balls, just really well coached and really hanging their hat on the defensive end. And then obviously they're a tremendous offensive team as well.
So are you saying that defense no longer sells as far as casual
Yeah.
fan TV ratings?
I think that's exactly what the game has been turned into. I think, obviously Steph coming into the league and bringing the long ball to the league. I think athleticism and dunks have always sold. And if I'm just thinking as a fan of the game now, guys don't want to see those old school 81, 82 games that we saw in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. You want to see 115 to 120, and you want to see a bunch of threes and alley-oops and dunks, and that's what they sell the game on. And I think that reason alone is the reason why the game has gone so global. But to the purists and the people that do appreciate the defense, I definitely think it's been missing that defensive intensity. But
Yeah.
to the referees' credit and to Oklahoma City's credit and some of these other teams throughout the playoffs, I definitely think the physicality level has upped, and Oklahoma City's defense is probably going to go be ranked. I don't know the analytics or the numbers to it, but they'll go down as one of the better defensive teams we've seen in the finals.
Well, I mean, you can make a case that they're at or near the top of defenses all time. If you look at the numbers, they just scream all time. But the
Yes.
players don't scream all time because they're
Right.
not super duper stars
Right.
yet, anyway.
Right.
Okay, so when I look back at KD and Russ and Harden in 2012, they were in the small market, Oklahoma City. It's the 47th ranked TV market, but they were all on the verge of superstardom. And then in their finals, they got to play LeBron and D
Yes.
Wade and Bosh, and it was the Heatles,
Yeah.
So I guess it worked because you saw them coming in ways that people can't get their arms around SGA and Jalen Williams yet, anyway.
Well,
Right?
I think to your point, I think the first team you named, the team I played against, that was a monster. That Oklahoma City, they had
Yeah.
more star power. Obviously, we know Shea and his accolades and how incredible he is, and him being the MVP. But I think Jalen Williams is on his way to becoming one of those household names. And you look at Dort as one of the best defenders, and Caruso's always been a menace. They have guys on the team that all play, but I think the star power of that OKC team outweighed their small market. And then, like you said, they played LeBron and D Wade and Bosh in the finals. So you were going to watch that
You're just,
regardless.
yeah. So with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and again, you know this game at the highest level from the defensive perspective. So he's 6'6", as is Jalen Williams. So you have two 6'6" guards who constantly are attacking the rim. SGA has as sweet a mid-range jumper as I've ever seen, just on 6'6" jumpers. Like
Yep.
KD is unstoppable because he's 7 feet tall. But
Right.
Shea, he doesn't shoot logo threes, and he doesn't slam it like Ant-Man slams it. When he gets to the rim, Shea, he's not a mad dunker. He's going to lay it, finesse it up off the glass. And he's from Canada. Is that why it's not connecting yet? I don't know.
I don't know why it's not connecting. I think maybe probably one of the few things you mentioned. I mean, he doesn't scream athleticism. He doesn't
No,
scream strength. He doesn't scream
no.
deep threes. But within that, he is probably one of the smoothest guys we've ever seen under that 3-point line. His ability to play off 2 feet, his ability to create space, his
Yeah.
ability to play off of counters and up and unders. And
Oh,
he's one of the most crafty, skilled players that we've ever seen in this
ever
game. I
seen.
mean,
Yeah.
Similar, and not, I wouldn't say similar. I think Shea's in a league of his own, considering where he's at right now. But similar to Jalen Brunson, his ability to
Yeah,
play in tight space, his ability to get his shots off, play off 2 feet, almost be a big guy when he's down in the post playing under the 3 point line. I
exactly.
just think these guys are super skilled. But I think to your point, I mean, I think we've been so conditioned and trained to watch the slam dunk, watch the alley oops, watch the deep threes, and he doesn't necessarily do any of that, but he's still quietly having one of the most incredible runs in the playoff. I want to say 16 times he scored at least 30 points in this series. Only four other in these playoffs, and only four
Yeah,
other guys have ever done it. I think MJ, Olajuwon, and Kobe.
that's
So
it.
his numbers are insane. He's insane, and he's leading the best team in the NBA to their first championship. So, I mean, I don't really know if you love the game, you understand the game, but if you're an outsider looking in, it may not be appealing to you. One, because of the
May
big
not.
market, and two, you're just not familiar enough with what SGA is about.
And Matt, when it comes to dressing off the court, Shea is in a league of his own. Like I'm not sure anybody's ever been able to compete. He walks the Paris runway. You know,
Yes,
he's
every game,
Chanel head to
every
toe.
game, every
And
game.
maybe it's just too elitist or I don't know. You know,
Well,
when Russ was in OKC, he was known for his attire and his tunnel
hmm
entrance and all that, but SGA's like in another
different.
universe from everybody, and yet
Yeah,
I don't hear that much about it. It doesn't take off. It doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he's incredible. I think he's a fashion killer, and he's really high on that. And you know, again, and I think because there isn't as much star power behind this team, he's kind of the lone star. And I don't mean
yep.
that with any disrespect to anyone else on that team, because again, I
No, I
think there are some
understand.
up and coming stars on that team, but Shea's kind of the lone star. And again, if you're in Oklahoma City
Yeah,
and it's a team that's, you know, shout out to Presti, the way he's been able to build this team the right way through trades and drafts and free agency. So it's just an interesting blue collar way about going about their
it
work. And
is.
and I think that's maybe why it doesn't get the fandom and the attention that it deserves. But winning a championship could change all that.
It could. What are you seeing from the beanpole who is Chet Holmgren at 7'1", and he can move a little bit? And I told you guys when I was on your show with you and Steven Jackson that I've never liked the 7-foot white American players. Just that repeatedly in the draft they have struck out and failed, and
Yeah,
yet this is the first one where I saw the high school
yeah,
highlights and I said, you know what?
yeah,
This kid moves, and
yeah.
this kid can jump, and he's still really skinny, and he can get manhandled occasionally, but he also has a lot of impact because he can block and screw up a lot of shots.
I think his impact is insurmountable on both sides of the ball. He's someone who can stretch the floor. He can get downhill, dunk on you,
Yep.
finish. He's a lob threat. He's someone who can not consistently, but someone who can knock down the mid range. So I think as he continues to polish all that up, he's just a large body out there that contests everything. He, you
Yeah.
know, blocking, you know, 3 or 4 shots a game. I'm a huge fan of Chet. I got a chance to see him in high school.
Did you? Yeah.
And yeah, I got a chance to see him play, and I just knew with his skill set,
Yeah.
you know, how special he was. Obviously, you know, he does need to put on some weight, but I always think he'll be one of those guys, a Tayshaun Prince, you know, a
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, one of those guys that has
Yeah.
a frail body, but wiry, strong. It's a different kind of strong when you have
It
those kind of,
is.
have that kind of body. But I think Chet has been huge. You know, obviously missing time last year, him coming back this year and missing time this year, but him coming back with
Yeah.
a vengeance and really having it. He plays with a different kind of chip on his shoulder. And although he's a white American, I think there might be some color somewhere along his bloodline,
Maybe.
in his
Yeah.
lineage. But I'm a huge fan of Chet. Good
Yep.
dude too. So
He's a good
big
dude.
fan of what he's doing.
Yeah, I love watching him shoot free throws because it is textbook. It is
Yes,
pure, man.
pretty form.
Yeah, you just don't see that in that size because usually the 7+ footers have a really hard time at the free throw line.
Mhm.
He's pretty
Yeah,
automatic.
yeah, absolutely beautiful form.
All right, so what's your thought about Halliburton, who's been sensational late in so many games, all-time clutch, and yet he's had a history of every fifth or sixth game. I don't know what happens. He's out of rhythm. He's out of whack. He doesn't show up, but he had some kind of calf strain. I don't know. They said they're going to MRI. The point is, how much of an excuse do you give him for game 5 when he didn't make a field goal off his calf. He played 34 minutes, obviously.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I got a chance to see him when I was working for the Kings in
Yep.
Sacramento, night in, night out. And there,
Yep.
again, similar to Shea, nothing off the chart as far as
No.
athleticism or, he's getting better shooting the three, the deep three, but there's
Yeah.
nothing that jumps out. But he's just a goddamn gamer. But
He
I think
is.
at the same time, what you pointed out, his ability to disappear
Yeah.
leaves those holes for criticism.
Yeah. I
Because,
don't
if
know.
you're a star, you get no
Yeah.
nights off, you get no excuses. If you're out there, I think Kendrick Perkins said, excuse my language, I don't give
Yeah.
a what. If you're
Yeah. I
out there,
know.
you're out there. It's the
You're
finals.
right.
It's time to go. So I'm a big fan of Hallie. I think he gets knocked sometimes because I feel like he is a star, but he's not one of those leaders and stars that are going to score 30 a game.
No.
He's more likely to give you a triple double with 19 points. He's a
Yep.
leader. He hits big shots. He hits
He
clutch shots. He's
does.
not afraid of the moment. And I like his dad as an animal off the court too. So, big fan of Hallie. Obviously, if you're on the court for 34 minutes, there's no excuse as the
No.
leader and as the best player on that team, or whether you think Siakam's the best player, but there's no excuse, and you can't have those type of games, unfortunately, in the playoffs, and particularly the finals. So he's going to get crucified for these next 2 days until he can go
Yeah.
out there and do something about it.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay. What's your gut feeling on game 6? What do you think Indy will rise up and say, not in our house?
I don't think so. I
No.
think I would love to see it again because I don't
Yeah.
really have a horse in the race, and I would love to see
Yeah.
it go 7 games because I know the season is ending. But I just think Oklahoma City smells blood now. They had a nice little run yesterday in the game when McConnell was in there and Halliburton was on the bench, and you thought, oh, here they come again. I think they want to say they cut it to 2 or 3,
They
but
cut it to
OKC
2.
was
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
able to fight
Mm-hmm.
and extend that lead and come back with a victory. So I think OKC smells blood in the water, and I think they'll finish out the game tomorrow.
Um, listen, the Pacers. I'm an OKC fan because I grew up there, but the Pacers scare the hell out of me because they just keep on keeping on.
Yes.
I'm not sure I've ever seen. They've come back 4 times in the playoffs from 15 down. 4 times. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's virtually impossible, and they keep doing it. They did it on this team in game 1.
Yep. Yep. No, they hit big shots, and sometimes, Skip, when you have these young teams, you don't know any better. You don't know when you get down 15, you're supposed to pack it in. They're like, hey, we're still in this game. There's a chance to fight, and that's the one thing that Coach Carlisle has these guys doing is, fighting until that final horn, and their ability to chop leads. I think as a whole, I think with the addition of the 3-point shot and how many shots teams are shooting, no lead
Yeah.
is safe in the NBA anymore. But you think in the playoffs, these leads are a little safe. But I think Indiana's dispelled all those myths, what they've been able to do throughout this playoff run of coming back from insurmountable leads and finding a way, willing a way, whether it's Halliburton or Neesmith hitting, 5 threes. So it's
Yep.
just it's been a fun team to watch. I think, with all due respect, I think no one saw Indiana coming. I think this has been an overachieving season, but they're still here. And who knows? I mean, they've done it before. They could win at home and force a game 7,
Yep.
and there's no telling. But I think my initial pick was OKC in 6, and I'm gonna
Stick
stick with
with it.
that.
All right. I hear you. All right. Let's talk about what people are really interested in. How about the Lakers? How about the guy who's still the face of the league, LeBron bleeping James? So he will play next year at, what would he be, 41 in year 23.
Insane.
It's pretty insane. You know, because you stuck around. Listen, 14 years for you, that's
Yeah.
a long time. That's
Yeah.
very impressive. That you should be very proud of 14
Mm-hmm.
years in that
Mm-hmm.
league.
Yep.
And now he's 23, and I didn't see much slowdown last year. And he
No.
averaged, what was it, 24, 8, and 8 last year. I mean, he made the
Yeah.
All-Star team, and he deserved to be on the All-Star team, and
Mm-hmm.
still looks like a top 10 player, I would say.
Yeah.
So what do you see? What's the future for him?
The one thing I see that I saw, and as a student of the game and as a huge fan of LeBron, is he just ran out of gas in the playoffs, and I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything he can do moving forward to not run out of gas because I just think overall his body is running out of gas. I mean, this guy
Yeah.
has
No, I understand.
defied all odds, going into year 23 in his 40s, still playing at a high level, being a guard too. So being able to move around and still maneuver his body and get up above the rim and do everything he's done. But that's the one thing I did see in the playoffs this year is that his body just gave up. His
Mm.
body, he gave absolutely everything he had, and I think again at 40 plus years old, and I know he's one of the hardest workers in the league in the offseason. I know he takes care of his body, but there's only so many miles a body is allowed to have, and his odometer is way
Yeah.
past that meter. So I think it's going to be important, and I think Rob came out and said it as soon as they were eliminated that we need to go out and get some people. One thing I do know that Luka's been working his ass off, and he's a lot slimmer. I think
He
he
does
really,
look, it looked like he
yeah.
lost 15 pounds. Yep.
Well, I think there's things you can do in other cities, even if it's a big market, that you can't necessarily come to LA and do. And be lazy and be out of shape is
No.
one thing that the LA media will not let you live with. They'll,
No. Agreed.
so I think he's taken that to heart, and he's put the work in already, and he still has a full summer of getting better and getting in shape. So I think it's going to be big part of next season is going to be on his shoulders. We already know what Braun is going to give us, whether it's 23 a game next year or 24 again. But this team needs some help. I love Austin Reeves and I love some of the pieces they have, but they just don't have a constructed team that is really built for today's NBA. I think they need
Mm.
some length. I think they need some more athleticism. I think they need some more wing defense, and they need someone to protect the basket. So those
Mm.
are all important aspects, especially with the team when your two best players, if you're saying AD, LeBron, and maybe Austin Reeves, are your three best players, and none of those guys are known for defense, you got to have some kind of protection
Yep.
behind them, and I feel like they lack that. So one thing I will give credit for is Rob has been able to pull rabbits out of hats
He has.
somehow,
Yep.
some way, with the lack of money they have, with the lack of cap room they have. He's always able to maneuver. So it'll be an interesting summer. I think there's going to be a lot of movement this summer overall, but I would love to see, as someone who grew up as a Laker fan, still a Laker fan, a fan of
Yep.
LeBron, and want to see him go out the best way possible. It'll be an interesting offseason for this team because they definitely need to be able to insulate LeBron with some more talent.
So, Matt, I hear everything you say. There are flaws in this team, especially on the defensive end. And obviously, they lost the rim protector in AD to Dallas. But I got to tell you, as a big basketball fan, you want to talk about must-see TV, was LeBron and Luka and Austin Reeves. It's just genius level ball movement between those three. It's like they're almost like, can you top this every night? I'll try one, you try one. And they're more into passing the basketball than scoring the basketball in a lot of ways. And it was really fun to watch, even though it's not going to contribute consistently to big wins, to championship runs.
Mhm.
But the IQ level of those three, because Austin Reeves really,
Oh man,
LeBron blesses him. LeBron believes in
yeah,
him. And
yeah.
so if you put those three on the floor at the same time, the ball movement is going to be spectacular.
Yeah, and the ability, to your point, obviously high IQ, great ball move, but three different guys that can go get you a bucket. There's not too many
Yeah.
teams on the perimeter that you can throw the
No,
ball, and
no.
they have Austin Reeves on a great deal. I'm not sure when his contract is expiring, but I know there's going to be a team, probably a bad team, that's going to throw a truckload of money
Sure.
at him. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if they keep him or they use him as an asset with an expiring contract to trade and bring in some more depth. But I'm a huge fan of Austin Reeves. But to your point. Yeah, those three out there are magicians, and it
They
is must
are.
watch TV. But to
Yeah.
your point, that it's only going to take you to a certain level. And
Yeah.
as someone who lives in LA and am around crazy delusional Laker fans all day, like nothing
All
is good
day.
enough but a championship. So right
Yeah.
now they don't have the recipe for that. But again, we'll see if this offseason if they can pick up some key
Yeah.
pieces that can
But
help that
to your
move.
point about LeBron running out of gas, I think Luka ran out of gas too, because
Yes.
that they were just overmatched against the Timberwolves. And
Yeah.
then Oklahoma City, they overmatched the Timberwolves, so that you can
Yeah.
just see. To talk about your torch being passed.
Yeah.
That's passed
Yeah.
right before your very eyes.
Definitely level. I mean, this is a young Skip. I remember I came in the league in 2002, and it was an older, physical, rugged. There were vets. There were 37, 38, 39, 40. Some played, some didn't, but it was just an older, grown
Yeah,
man league. This
yeah,
is a young man's league now. The pace, the style of play, the thought process behind the playing, the skill
yep.
set. It's a young man game. So if you're older player, your best players are older players, you better have a hell of a roster because it's definitely a young man's game.
Speaking of young men, the Lakers went with a very young head coach who had no head coaching experience. I was a big Darvin Ham fan. I think you were too. But how did you think JJ Redick fared this year?
I think first and foremost, I think Darvin got the raw end.
He did.
I was a fan of Darvin,
Yeah.
but then being here, you hear things and you hear,
Yeah.
about his styles and philosophies. And again, I didn't hear, I hear it just like I'm sure you hear it.
I do.
But JJ, I got a chance to play with JJ, and JJ was one of those guys. We were around the same time. He was one of those guys that just one of those Duke players. Like I know if I meet JJ, I'm gonna hate him. I'm not gonna like him. And lo and behold,
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
played together in Orlando, and he's to this day one of my closest basketball friends. We still
Really?
communicate, and
Oh,
then yeah, and then
interesting.
we got a
Okay.
chance to play with each other with that Lob City Clipper team, and we became
Yeah.
even closer. I think JJ is a mad scientist. I think JJ is an evil genius. I think he's a
Yeah.
workaholic. I think he is a strategist at heart, a competitor, and I think it took a player like that to gain respect because I think the biggest thing now is relating to players. I think the X's and O's are still important to an extent, but we don't see these older coaches, these old school coaches. I thought Stan Van Gundy had his last chance in New Orleans. And when he went to New Orleans, because I played for Stan, I'm like, Stan is old school. We used to have fucking tape shoot arounds,
Yeah, I
knee
know.
pads, and like that stuff doesn't fly anymore. So these
Doesn't
old school
fly. Agreed.
principles and old
Yeah.
school ways don't work anymore. So you need someone that has these old school principles, such as JJ,
He
but the
does.
ability to
Yeah.
translate it to this younger game and to these younger players. And I think that's something that JJ has done a good job of. A hot seat, obviously one of the hottest seats in sports, but to win 50
It is.
games and have a huge trade the way they had in the middle of the
Yeah.
season and be able to, galvanize that and ride the momentum off that. I think JJ did a really good job. I think obviously he has more work to do. I sent him a message maybe 2 weeks ago. Man, I was like, man, don't dwell on this all season. Enjoy some time with your family,
Yeah.
get out there and golf, take a breath. He also lost his house in the Palisades
He
fires
did.
when that situation happened. So he had a lot going on. But to answer your question, I'm a huge fan of JJ. I think JJ is the right man for the job. It's just on Rob's ability now to, put some more pieces that fit into that system. And I think JJ will do a good job of coaching them up.
Good to know. So, speaking of a younger man, and this is a tough one for me because I'm a big fan of Bronny James just because I think he's a great kid and I love how he's handled everything. I'm not sure what his NBA ceiling is. What's your gut feeling at this point on how can he become a contributor at some point?
I think he can. And I think if you're looking at him because he's LeBron James' son in that kind of vein or that kind of light, you're going to be disappointed because LeBron is a once in a lifetime player. I
Yeah.
think Bronny is a 6'2", solid, very solid, and you could see his improvements over the season. I think he's going to be a very solid role player, and there's nothing wrong with being a very solid role player. I think he locks in on defense. I think he has a high IQ. I think he can pass the ball. I think he can score the ball, and I think he can jump. So I just think, being thrown, I thought he got thrown in the fire. When I say thrown in the fire, I mean thrown in the NBA a little younger, a little early. I thought he
Yep.
could have used another year at SC. I thought he could have came back for one more year, averaged
Agreed.
14 to
Yep.
16 points, and really got his feet under him as far as kind of understanding this game. But hey, things happen. He was drafted. My whole thing with him is to be honest with you, Skip, it's less about what can he do on the court? And I just feel for the mental health of him because, again, being a player and understanding this climate and a former player, and then also being a father with kids who have
Yeah.
aspirations, it's such a nasty world now. And, obviously, as grown men, we're paid to handle it and you turn the other shoulder, be the bigger man. But for these young kids that are late teens, early 20s, it's such a nasty world out there. And it's hard to turn your head right or left, particularly in LA and not hear something negative about you. So I'm glad that obviously who his dad is, and I'm sure he's insulating him with a good support system because the one thing I worry about, I think if he puts the work in, he's going to be a very solid role player that can play, 10, 15 years in this league. I just hope that, he's able to mentally handle
Yeah.
this grind because it's nasty out here.
And by the way, speaking of that, you have two 16-year-old sons playing at a high level of AAU basketball, high school basketball. You're coaching
Yep.
them. How
Mhm.
hard is it to watch them play basketball? How hard is it on your psyche night in and night out?
It's not hard at all, to be honest with you. I mean, it's my release. It's my way of playing still. It still fills that competitive void, obviously, of stepping away from the game. It's 8 years this June since I've stepped away from the game. but I coached as soon as I, won the championship with the Warriors. I went right into coaching them, and it's been my pride and joy since I retired, just to see them grow as young men first and foremost. And I started coaching when they're 8, and they're 16 now, and I can't believe how fast they've grown. We just got back from the NBPA Top 100 camp out of South Carolina, and again, I've been in the game and I've seen it, and I've seen. We've been on a certain program where we're just going to, chop wood, carry water. We're on a slow grind to be able to be ready when it really matters. I've seen a lot of kids be the best 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and you never hear from them again. So we're on a nice pace. This summer we're hitting the weights and the plyometrics hard, along with
Yeah.
polishing up the game. And I'm really excited for their junior and senior years of high school. But to your point, it's what I live for these days. Seeing them play, coaching them, whether I'm coaching them or not. I don't know if you know, but their high school coach is Derek Fisher. That's their stepdad. So, he coaches
Yep.
them during the season. I coach
Yep.
them during the summer. So they're getting a lot of high IQ basketball from both of us, and I think he's done a great job. And obviously, I've done a great job of helping raise these young men. And then I got two more sons. I got a 6-year-old who was just behind me who looks like he's 10, and then I got a 9-month-old. So I got 4 sons, and I'm going to be in this space for a long time.
You
So,
are.
but I absolutely love it.
Would you say you coach them hard?
I think I coach them fair. I am a
Okay.
little harder on them, but not. I've seen those dads that make their kids examples because he's the coach and they're the kids. I'm fair. I don't. At one point, one was starting, one was coming off the bench because I felt if I played daddy ball, I'd be doing them a disservice for the next coach they have. So everything they have with me is earned. They know they got to earn it, and I think they have that mentality now. So when I'm not their coach or at these camps or they're in high school, they're playing for other teams, they understand that nothing is given to them. Everything is earned, and you have to have a consistency about yourself and carry yourself the right way to continue to ascend in this game. So they have all the tools. They have the blue book, for, the blueprint for me. And as long as they continue to put in the work, they definitely have a shot to live out their dreams.
So obviously you've come a long way with Derek Fisher, and now that he's coaching them, could you ever pull him aside? Would you be comfortable in saying, I think maybe if you try this or that, would you ever suggest anything
Oh
as far
yeah,
as your sons are
absolutely.
concerned?
Derek and I have a very open line of communication. We've been working really hard to actually get some kids over to their high school. So Derek and I's relationship is good. Actually, Derek and I squashed our beef that following summer, and a lot of people they love the negativity and the drama, so they didn't really want to recognize that. We've been he's been with my ex-wife for 10 years, almost 11 years now. So
Yep.
he's been with my kids since they were 6 years old. So he's not an enemy. I actually just wished him happy Father's Day the other day
Did you?
because
Good
again,
for
it,
you.
it takes a village, to raise these young men. And I think he's done a great job of accepting those boys like they were his and loving them and nurturing them when they have them. I think we've been a great combination for
Good
the
for you.
twins and their development and growth.
I don't know him well, but I do think I think he's a good man. I think it's a good arrangement that you have, a good situation.
Yeah. No, again, and obviously all the drama that went down and, being older now, you look back on it like, damn, maybe there was a different way. And in the moment, it's just kind of the way that it was
Oh,
handled. But I'm
hey,
glad that we were able to sweep it under the rug for the betterment of, raising these boys together. And again, for the last 10 years, we've been on the same page. And I think it's been a tremendous blessing, for me mentally, but also for the twins to have two guys that
hey,
played at the highest level for a long
hey,
time.
listen, they don't know how blessed they have been to
No,
have you and
facts.
him
Facts.
coaching them, mentoring them,
Hmm.
guiding
Yep.
them, teaching them,
Yep.
making them grow up at a pretty rapid pace.
Yes,
So,
sir.
way to go. And by the way, if you're ready to plunk down a few bucks on these ever more intriguing finals, the only place to start is FanDuel, the franchise. The Cowboys, Yankees, Lakers all rolled into one. You can find all the best player props on FanDuel. You can get the latest stats right inside the app. See who's consistently hitting the over, who's flirting with triple doubles. And once the game starts, it can really get interesting. When you combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big, hey, give FanDuel a shot now, today. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/skip and then skip FanDuel.com/skip to get started right here, right now. Quick word about protein bars, because Ernestine and I live on protein bars. She always has a couple in her purse. I always take 3 or 4 with me every time I play golf. So we know what we're talking about when it comes to protein bars, and we have been shocked by how good David protein bars are. Very high in protein. I can't get enough protein, but very low in calories. Ernestine and I are hooked on the blueberry and the chocolate fudge. Peanut butter is very good. To me, they're just as good as any candy bar I've ever had. And does David ever have a deal for my viewers and my listeners? Because you right now can buy 4 cartons and get the 5th free. That's at davidprotein.com/my name's Skip, SKIP. That's David Protein, all together, davidprotein.com/skip to get your 5th carton free. Humans aren't perfect, but David is. All right, let's talk about another monstrous talent named Kevin Durant. He's probably on the backside of his career now. His team did not do well, but his numbers were just off the charts last year as a jump shooter. What's your gut feeling on how much he has left and where that should play out?
What year what year will he be going into? Is it 18 or 19 for him, or 17? What do we know?
17, I believe.
17
Yeah.
years. I was literally having this conversation with someone yesterday. I think his game is meant for aging from a standpoint. I don't think, although he was athletic at one point, he didn't
Yeah.
depend on that. That wasn't the source of his scoring. His
True.
skill set was the source of his
Yeah.
scoring, his ability to shoot the ball. And he only continues to get better at shooting the long ball, finding that mid range, still the ability to get downhill and dunk on you if you know,
Sure.
if you're asleep. So I'm a huge fan of Kevin. I think he still has another good 2 or 3 years, possibly 4 in the tank. I think that Phoenix job was that Phoenix team was a train wreck. I think that Bradley Beal move was a horrible move.
It was horrible.
And I'm a fan of Bradley Beal. I think in with the Wizards, I think he was, one of the better 2 guards in the league. But I think bringing 3 guys that pretty much had the same skill set to one team and just thinking that was going to work was
Yeah.
bad management and bad ownership. So I am happy he's getting out of there. Where I think he best fits, but I'd love to see him go to the Knicks. I think that would be great. But I think he best fits, in my opinion, in that Houston team. And I think that Houston team has young assets and picks to be able to swap out. And because I think what they lacked in these playoffs was, obviously they've taken on the personality of Ime Udoka, who's one of the better coaches
Oh,
in this
easy.
league, with his
Ooh.
mentality and his principles and the way he has those young kids playing. But they needed that consistent score that's going to give you 24 to 26 every single night. And Kevin Durant has been that since the day one he's stepping in this league. And although he's going into year 17, I still think he can be that for that particular team. So I would love to see him make a move. I think it's going to happen. I think the Knicks are a beautiful destination. I think Houston, I think San Antonio could be really interesting too. You pair him
I
up
do
with
too.
De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. So I'm definitely looking forward to see where he lands. I just saw him maybe about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at the Sparks game, and we chopped it up a little bit. But
Oh,
always
yeah.
been a huge fan of him, his ability, but also not just his ability to play the game, but his troll ability too. I like that because I think we live in such a society now where I've kind of caught the tail end of social media in my career, that athletes are always supposed to turn the cheek or be the bigger guy or do this and do that. And obviously he got caught with his burner and he's thrown the burner away, but he just talks shit to people back. And I think that
Yes.
I personally love it. And I
Yeah.
think the people that receive it love it too, although they may continue to talk trash. They're like, I got Kevin Durant to respond to me. And I think that it, again, mental health is huge. And I think that's the way he kind of deals with his mental health is, hey,
He
I'm
does.
gonna go have some fun on social media and fire back and talk some trash because I think he's super creative. He got our guy Stephen A the other day. He
He
posted
did.
Stephen A playing playing solitaire during the
Solitaire.
finals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love KD on and off the court. I think he's a very misunderstood person, but arguably one of the greatest, most efficient scorers we've ever seen in this game. And I still think he has some good years under his belt.
This is just my 2 cents from a distance. I just don't know if at this stage and age he wants to be viewed as somebody's savior, where he
Mm.
would come in like New York. If he goes to the Knicks, it'll be like, okay, this is it, Kevin. You got to take us over the top. You got to take us to the promised land. I don't know that he wants that, which is why you mentioned the Spurs. I think that's the sweetest landing spot for him because there wouldn't be instant savior expectation and pressure on him, but he could, mentor Wemby a little bit, and they'd be very good. The West is just so stacked and
Loaded.
loaded. I don't know that they'd immediately be a contender. Feel free to disagree, but if you put
No,
him and
I agree.
De'Aaron and Wemby on the floor together, and Stephon Castle just won Rookie of the Year, I mean they
Super
would have some
talented.
firepower,
Yeah.
man. But
Yeah.
but I,
I'm interested to see, to be honest with you, because I don't know if he doesn't want that. I think that he took so much heat for the Steph and Warrior move, but at the same time, I was on one of those teams. Skip, he was fucking unbelievable during those runs, winning those Finals MVPs, and his ability, just man, he was incredible. He took a lot of heat, which I think was, if you want to give him the heat, I think if you give him the heat, you got to give LeBron the heat for running to Miami. So I don't give either of them heat. I just think that we live in an era now where stars are moving. But I do think that Kevin's. I just think he's one of those guys that leads by example, and I think because he's always been an alpha as far as his skill set and his ability to score the ball, that they want more from him vocally, or you want him to do. He just leads in a different way, and I've got a chance to play with different types of leader superstars. You know what I mean? And some guys lead in different ways, and I just think he leads by example. So to go to New York and he would have, I think he would be good with that because he is someone who actually thought about going to the Knicks. Chose Brooklyn. That was a train wreck with the pieces they missed, but I still think he has that fire in him no matter where he goes, that, he's going to put his best foot forward and be that efficient, lethal scorer we've seen for the past 16 years.
well, to your point, and nobody knows this better than you do because you saw him and practiced against him on a daily basis, but that shot of his, they talk about Kareem's skyhooks, the most unstoppable shot. But listen, this guy, I don't care what the stats say about 6'11", he's 7 feet tall and he's like 7'6" long. And he shoots it way back over his
Way
head.
back.
Yeah, and like there's no way you can even bother it. You can't
No.
at 6'8", if you're guarding him. I don't know what you can get
Yeah,
physical
there's
with
none.
him,
That's
but
what you had to do. You
yeah,
had to get in his feet. You had to get into his
yeah.
body because once he rises up, there's absolutely nothing you can do
Because
with
what are you
his
going to
height,
do?
his
Yeah,
skills. You can't do nothing.
you can't get your fingertips near it.
No.
But
You could
because
try that
God,
old Shane Battier style. Shane Battier used to try to put his hand in
he
front of
put his
people, but
hand in his face. Yeah.
I don't even
Okay.
think that would work with KD. I just think he's so far above and has mastered what he done. And that was the one thing funny you said that about getting a chance to play with him. That one year that I played with him and Steph, Skip, it was so special. That team first and foremost, but just to see him and Steph used to work, and Steve Nash was like a special assistant. So Steve Nash would
Yeah.
pop up on our team a few times a month and work with these guys. But when I tell you, you saw a 7 foot version of Steph, and Steph was a smaller version of him. They were working out on the court doing off one foot balance,
Yeah.
wrong foot
Yeah.
spins. I mean, the way they worked relentlessly every single day without missing was incredible. And you see why they are who they are when you get a chance to kind of go behind the curtains and you get to see them off the court, when you get to see them in
Yeah.
practice, or you get to see them working out, just the kind of effort they put in every single rep, every single shot is the most important shot. And I really just sat back after practice. I would always get my shots after because all the courts were fun. When I tell you, Clay was so Steph and KD were on one end, Clay was on the other end, Iggy had a court, Draymond had a court, the young kids had a court, and then like D West and Sean Livingston had a court. So I would always, just because I got there late, I would kind of have to wait to get my shots up. So I would always wait,
Yeah.
but it would be such a delight to watch Steph and KD work out on one side, and you'll see Clay shoot 100 shots and maybe miss 2 shots. It was just so special those days in Golden State, just to kind of seeing what those big three were doing on a day in, day out basis.
KD works at his craft, and I think he works as
Oh
hard
yeah.
as anybody has ever worked at that thing, at that skill set
Yep.
that he has to improve it
Hmm.
and maximize it. Man, and he
Yeah.
loves the work. A lot of guys just
Yes.
don't love the work, but he loves the
Yes.
craftsmanship of it. So
And the
you
student of the
saw
game,
some,
watching old
yeah,
film, watching old
yeah,
film, watching old games, watching old players. Like he's like a basketball nerd. Like he
he
is
is, yeah.
fully entrenched in all aspects of the game. That's why I'm such a big fan of his body of work and who he is.
All right, let's flip it around and talk about the player that he chose to leave in Oklahoma City when he came to the Warriors for that year, and that's Russell Westbrook. And it surprised me a little bit because Russ declined his option the other day in Denver, and I don't know if that means he's just trying to get them to re-sign him for more money, but he's going to hit the open market. And if he goes to another team, that would be 7 teams in 8 years that he has played for. And I'm pretty sure he's a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer, but I don't remember any Hall of Famer who finished his career
Yeah.
going, with
Hmm.
kind of the route you took where you're playing on a bunch of
Hmm.
teams. That's
Hmm.
7 and 8 for Russell Westbrook. What does that say to you?
I don't know what it says. I don't know Russ, although we went to the same college. I never really got a chance to know Russ, to
Yeah,
be honest with you. So everything I say about him is kind of just what I've seen or what I've heard. And I don't have anything bad to say. I think he is one of the most competitive,
he is. Yeah.
fierce,
Hmm.
athletic point guards we've ever seen in this game. At the same time, very hard headed. And I think he'll probably admit that. It'll be interesting because I think this league is about fit. And I think in certain situations, whether it was him, whether it was a system, whether it was the guys around him, that during this journey where he's been going from team to team, it hasn't been necessarily a great fit. I thought that Denver was a really good fit for him, especially at this stage and age in
Agreed.
his
Oh,
career. So
yeah.
I'm really interested to see what happens to him. I do agree with you. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think in his prime, he was something to be reckoned with. You think of guys like him and Derrick Rose and Baron Davis. I mean, just the explosiveness from the point guard position, we don't necessarily see, or we haven't necessarily seen guys of that nature. So, huge fan of Russ. I think he's put the work in, and I want him to go out the way he wants to go out. But it's going to be interesting to see what that is. I didn't even know he declined his option. I thought he was going
Yeah.
back to Denver. So, whether he goes back to Denver or not, I heard some weird. I don't even know if it was internet myth, but I heard some
Yeah.
team overseas offered him a boatload of money. So I don't know how much
Yeah.
truth there is to that. But it'll be interesting. Again, he's someone who is um, put the work in. Someone from the outside looking in that every time he steps on the court, he's giving you maximum effort. And I think it really throughout his career, you've got to kind of take the bad with the good because I think normally when he was younger and doing his thing, the good outweighed the bad. Now it's a little bit closer because
Yeah.
I think he still kind of has a similar mindset that he is still in his 20s and he's probably in his mid to late 30s. So, I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he lands in a spot where he's able to play the type of basketball that is going to, make him happy, but also help the team win.
Look, I've talked to so many ex-players who just love Russ, and I get why you would love him because I'm not sure any player has played consistently harder than he's played every dribble of his career. I mean, like every single dribble, like you said, it's
Yep.
fierce. It's almost
Hmm.
angry, but it's just ferocious basketball where he is full tilt every
Hmm.
single night, every dribble. The problem is, this is just me as a basketball purist from afar. It just hurts my eyes because he plays so out of control on offense where he attacks and it's bull in China shop where it's just and the ball's flying out of bounds. And
Yeah.
remember, he has led the league in turnovers 4 times and he's finished second in turnovers 4 more times. That's a lot of turnovers. And he's always been a bottom of the barrel 3-point shooter who will still take those 3-point shots because he's
Yeah.
fearless. And he
Hmm.
has no memory. Like he can just blank his memory out where he
Hmm.
doesn't hang on to it at all. Like what slump? I'm not in a slump. I'll make
Yeah.
the next one. And he just might make the next one, but he's a 30% career 3-point shooter,
Yeah.
which so many, it's way down at the bottom. So when you're high turnovers, low 3-point percentage, and you're shooting an average number of 3-point shots, it's hard on
Hmm.
your basketball team. It's hard on the
Yeah.
efficiency of your team. And
Yeah. I
and
think
that,
the same
yeah,
thing
go
that's
ahead.
no, I just think that the
Yeah.
same thing that's made Russ great, that memory, the ability to next play
Yeah.
mentality, the play as hard as you can. I think outside obviously the turnovers and the low shooting percentage, what's made him great has also hurt him at this point because
It
he
has.
plays the exact same way. And I think,
Yeah.
again, on the outside looking, I think there's a little hard-headedness because he's put the work in and he has a ton of accolades. And, although he's led the league in turnovers, he's also was the first one since Oscar to average the triple
He,
double. And
he
he's done that for a
was, and
few
I didn't
seasons.
think we'd
He
ever see
won.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he won the MVP. So obviously there's a method to his madness, but I do think there's a lot of madness. And one thing I will say about Russ, and again, this is not a knock, I just think when guys get older, their games get a little bit more defined. But I still think Russ still plays the same ways. Again, a bull in a china shop, and now is very successful for about 12 years, 13, 14 years. I'm not sure
Right.
what year this is for him
Yeah.
now, but
He's up there in
to think of the
16. Yeah.
to think what he's, to think of his resume and how potent he was at Oklahoma City and even in Washington. He
He
was a
was.
monster in Washington. And then, to kind of see him go from team to team to team to team to team to team, now knowing everything he's accomplished. I don't like to see that because I am such a big fan of him, and I know how good he was. I got a chance to play against him for a long time, so
Yeah.
it'll be really interesting to see how his he ends up these last year or two or 3 years he has in his career and where he lands
Yeah.
and the ability to blend in with that team and be effective.
Did you ever guard him, or were you mostly forward to
Uh,
forward?
I got switched on him a few times, and he was a problem, especially when he's hitting that mid range too. When
Yeah.
he's knocking down his jump shots, and there's been plenty of times where he's been on a good groove. He was impossible to guard because he can get downhill and dunk. He can
Oh,
pull up for
can
the
he?
three.
Oof.
He had the mid range that was off the glass, the mid range pull up. I mean, he used to give us
It,
fits.
it
I
was
remember
it
with
was
the
pretty good. That
Lakers.
was his best shot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember with the Lakers and with the Clippers. I mean, Russ and those teams around him, because too, what made him so dangerous is there was James and there was Kevin out there with him, and he was still. And then there was Serge, and then there was Big Perk, and then there was Cephalosha on defense. They had some really
Yeah.
good
No, they did. No, that was a
teams
good
out there,
team.
and
Yeah.
he was a really good and an important part of that.
Hey, no one has ever angry slammed it better than just to punish you. If he beats you off the dribble, he is just going to punish
Mm-hmm.
you by tearing the
Mm-hmm.
rim down. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Next generation, Cooper Flagg. I don't know if you've gotten to see him or you saw him on the AAU level or in high school, or how real a deal. What do you think?
Big fan of Cooper Flag. I think what I'm the biggest fan of is his motor. And I
Yeah.
think his competitiveness, and he's not, and he's fearless, and I love that about young players. This is going to go to your additive about American white players. I think Chet may have cracked the mold, but I think Cooper may break the mold. I think
Okay.
he's extremely talented. I got a chance to see him play in person. I got a chance to just see. And to me, it's not always about the numbers you put up when I see.
Yeah.
It's just, do you understand what shots you should and shouldn't take, and the rotations on defense, and your ability to keep the ball in front, your ability to be a help side block defender because he's someone
Mm.
chasing down blocks too. So I really like Cooper Flag. I think his intangibles to begin with are going to be what carries him in the NBA, but I think he's someone that's going to become a really solid shooter. They say daily. I was just at that at the NBA camp with my kids, and some people were talking about just how much he's improved his mid-range shot and his
Yeah.
shooting from deep. So as long as he continues to work on that, which I know he will, and he'll be able to master that to some kind of aspect, I think Cooper Flag is going to be a really special player. And for him to somehow, some way land in Dallas is absolutely crazy to me. So
It's
I
pretty
think he's
crazy.
he's
You got
he's
any
landing in and he's
conspiracy
landing in.
theories about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole day there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories you and I both can come up with how the hell
Yeah.
he ends up there, how LeBron ends up in Cleveland, how Kyrie ends up in Cleveland, how certain guys and how Derrick Rose ends up in Chicago. There's just certain things that happen with that lottery machine sometimes when they need to happen that happen. So, but I'm a big component on it. sometimes the trajectory of star depends on where you go. And if you're one of those bottom of the barrel, terrible teams that have
Yeah,
different coaches every year, that can mess up. One example is DeMarcus Cousins. I think DeMarcus Cousins, outside of the anger and the temperament that a lot of people
I agree
characterize him
with
with,
you.
and whether he earned
I'm
that or not, he
yeah.
had 7 coaches in 8 years, Skip. So there was no kind of rhythm or any
No,
kind of just flow. And I think that just kind of it never allowed him to really mature in that Sacramento situation because it was a new coach every year. So I'm a big component on where you land as a young star can really kind of help you either be a superstar or it can help you kind of just be very talented and just be out there. So I'm glad that he's going to be in Dallas. Obviously, Kyrie getting healthy with AD, and they got a lot of talent. I felt like outside of obviously them getting hit with the injury bug, and once they made the trade, which I wouldn't have made the trade, but once the trade was made, I thought they were a better team for this year than the Lakers actually were adding Luka. I felt like Luka was more
I'm
of a
with you.
long-term play.
Yeah.
And I felt like with the pieces they had, and if everyone can get healthy and they throw Cooper Flag in that mix, I think Dallas, as long as the ownership stays out of the way and doesn't mess anything up, I think Dallas has a really good team and it'll be a good landing spot for Cooper to kind of learn the ropes of this game.
If I can go white to white comparison, how close could he ever get to Larry Bird? I don't. Is Larry
Ooh.
too before
I
your
mean, you would have
time
to
or
tell me. I mean,
yeah?
I grew no, so I was born in 1980, so I knew a lot
Yeah,
about Larry because I was a Magic fan. And the older I get, the more I learn about how cold Larry was. Just talking to guys that played from back then, or kind of
he
seeing
was cold.
He was something different. So I don't know. I don't even want to disrespect Larry yet. And even in mentioning those two in the same breath, I think Cooper has a whole career before we can even start, really
That's
comparing those
fair.
guys because
Yeah,
Larry
you're
was
right.
one of the greatest players of all time. But again, a white player that's going to take the league by storm. I think there's some smaller comparisons you can make with Larry and Cooper and with their ability and the way that they're going to kind of transcend and he'll probably have one of the highest selling jerseys in the league and he's going to be he's going to be must watch TV similar to what Larry was. So I'm definitely interested
Yeah.
and excited to see what this journey is going to be for Cooper Flag.
Well, I saw a whole lot of Larry Bird, and I can tell you this: Cooper Flag, way more athletic and can
Hmm.
jump 10 times more than Bird could. But Bird was cold, like you said. I mean, he was just genius IQ, bad. You know what?
But skill set too. I mean,
Oh
Skip. There was times I
God,
don't know if we talked about it with you, but some. I mean, he would shoot the ball. He'd play the games left-handed and just talk
he
shit the
would
whole way. Like what?
just
Like
the
what are
whole
we
way.
doing right here? He
Uh-uh.
telling you what the moves he's going to put on
He's
you and
gonna,
do it. I mean, just
yeah,
that level of confidence and skill and
yeah.
IQ and ability to put the ball in the basket. And then obviously, before he hurt his back, he was out there hustling and diving and playing defense and
He
blocking
was.
shots. So he was a complete player, and I don't think he gets the just due he deserves as one of the greatest of all time.
No, and he's another one, Matt, who could shoot it way back behind his
Yep.
head. Maybe not like KD
Hmm.
at 7 feet tall, but
Hmm.
you couldn't bother it that much. And when he got
Yeah.
it going, it's just he's going to laugh at you. He's going to clown you.
Yeah. You and Larry kind of got the same hair, that feathery blonde, nice. It shimmers in the
Back,
sunshine. Yeah, you
yeah,
guys got the same hair.
I still got it. That's the last thing I
Yes.
got going. Yeah.
Yeah. Hold
All
on
right.
to it.
Since we're talking white basketball, let's go one last direction. So here comes this white girl from Iowa,
Oof.
and she's
Cold.
not that athletic, not a leaper, but she's something.
Must watch basketball.
How do you explain her impact? What are you seeing?
I think she has the Tiger Woods effect, the way he
Mm-hmm.
put golf fans in a craze. Whether you're a golf fan or not, you tuned in and you wanted to learn
You
about the
did.
game because he was so incredible. I think she has that effect. The one thing I just don't like, and I don't care what people say, I feel like there's a lot of hate on Caitlin Clark, and I think because she's white, because she's a hooper and
Yeah.
she's going out there and bust people's ass every single night, and it's this little pretty petite country girl that you're not
Yep.
expecting. Again, she's not super athletic, she's not super
No.
big, but boy, can she shoot that ball, and she is must watch TV. I think when she was hurt a few weeks ago, they said viewership dropped by 52%. You
It
know what I
did.
mean? And
Yeah, I didn't
she
watch. I quit
has.
watching the teams. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she has teams that, when she comes into town, they're going to bigger arenas to play in, and she's selling out, and their ticket surges have been going crazy. Her jersey sales are going crazy, and what I like about her is her explosion on this set is benefiting all the ladies that play in this current game. Obviously,
Okay.
Angel Reese has been able to come in and do her thing, but I think Caitlin Clark is on a different level. She got into a little skirmish today. I was watching a little bit of the game before I came down and started talking to you. But she's fearless. Her ability to shoot the ball, pass the ball. I think as she continues to grow, she's going to have a chance to be one of the better players we've ever seen in this women's game. But um, I'm a big fan of what she's been able to do. But I think what's helped Angel is the storyline started in college. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the men's game misses now because we have these young kids coming from all over the world. Some of them go to college for a year, but we don't know anything about them until they get on these teams. They're like, who is this young kid But I think what was great was both their storylines crossed and they played
They
in the national
did. Yeah.
championship and Angel Wins got
Hmm.
she got the ring over her and their whole, good guy, bad guy, whatever narrative you want to put on them. I think they had an amazing storyline. And then also, both those women were brands when they came into the league. They were bigger brands, and I say with all due respect, than the WNBA was as itself. Those two girls came into this league bigger than the league. And I'm not saying they're the best players in the league because there's obviously, there's a ton of talent in this league in
There
the women's
is.
game, but
Yeah.
those two women came in as brands and they've built huge fan bases, whether you hate them or love them, you're watching them. And I just love to see the growth of the game because I feel like, that women always kind of had to play second fiddle, obviously, to the men's game. But, what Caitlin has done and this young W class that came along with her is they brought a different kind of excitement to the game, more viewership to the game. But I think Caitlin Clark is a special player. I think she has benefited from the Steph Curry effect, the ability to shoot that long ball and kind of change the dynamic of things. So I definitely enjoy watching her. I got a chance to see Angel play the Sparks a couple weeks ago. I like how hard
Yep.
she works and plays, and I think she gets a bad rap too. But I think whether you hate these girls or love these girls, you're watching these girls, you're talking about these girls, we're seeing them, we're seeing edits and highlights on these sports shows that we never used to see. They have WNBA shows now, so it's just like I love what these women have been able to do for the growth of the game.
Yeah. Matt, Caitlin Clark shoots jump shots from the logo. Like
From half
I,
court.
I get set shots, feet on the floor, push shots, but she can create her own off the dribble, and then she goes up and shoots a Steph Curry hang in the air jumper flick of the
And people don't
wrist
know
from the
how
logo.
hard that is. A jump shot from how like it that is so
Ah,
hard right now. I
ah,
guarantee 98% of the people on earth, if they try to go out there and shoot a
it
jump
couldn't
shot
do.
from, they wouldn't even
You
come close to the
well, you
rim.
can't
And
get it
she
there. You
does
just
it.
can't get it there. Yeah,
She does it. It's so it's just so natural. And to your point, similar to Steph, her ability to do it off the dribble, shooting the ball off the dribble is
off the
probably the
dribble.
hardest type
Yeah,
of shot to take.
yeah.
But she does it with such efficiency and it's so effortless. It's just beautiful. And she has her little lean to the left, and it's just
She
like
does. Yeah,
every time similar. When Steph shoots the ball and Caitlin Clark shoot the ball, those are the two players every time they shoot. And I got a chance to play with Kobe and AI and a
you
lot of
did.
great players.
Yeah,
Every time those two shoot the ball, I feel like it's going to go in. And I think
yeah.
that's the way they feel. And that's the way a lot of the people watching them feel like, oh, damn, they shot it. It's going to go in. And there's very few
And
players you can say that about in men or women.
you can't. And then the other thing that I didn't see coming at Iowa was I watch LeBron every night in part because he'll make at least one pass a night where I'll say, God, that was
Whoa.
something, like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Yep.
And I didn't see that. He saw it before anybody saw it, and he bounced it through
Mm-hmm.
three people for a layup. And she does that
Mm-hmm.
too. On a nightly basis, she'll make two or three passes where I'll say
Yep.
she'll do the up court pass. Where
How she see
she'll
it.
throw a 50-foot bounce pass to somebody for a layup, and I'll say, wow, that's you can't
Yeah.
teach it, you can't coach it, you watch it, you buy it.
I think her ability to put the ball in the basket overshadows her passing. I
Yeah.
mean, she leads the league in assists. I think she's at 9.3 or
Yeah.
9.2, something like she
Yeah.
leads the entire league in assists. And to your point, I love that part. Throw ahead. That's a sign of the magic. The old point guards I came up on,
I
all
know.
the if they had to dribble it up, they would. But if they can throw the ball ahead to get the break
Ah,
started, and she's great at that. So again, I'm a huge fan of her game. I'm a huge fan of her resilientness, and her toughness, the edge, the little bit of cockiness she plays with,
she
because you have to
does.
kind of have that cockiness to play in this league. She gets beat up, she gets knocked down, but she
She
gets right
does.
back up.
Yeah.
At least her teammates are still. I remember last year when they were knocking her down, her teammates weren't even helping her. But now the
They were
teammates have
not.
kind of rallied
Nope.
around her, and
Yeah.
they're taking care of her girl. But she is, whether you like it or not, she's a golden goose of this league, and she's going to take this league to new heights in a lot of different verticals.
And man, I'm just hoping that the veteran stars in this league, I'm talking about black and white stars, come around to her and make peace with her, because I know
Yes.
they're like, what were we, chopped liver? Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
kind of were, until this is a whole nother
Yeah.
level, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think what she's been able to do is she's been able to bring the eyeballs so we can find out how good Collier is, and how good Asia Wilson is, and how
Yeah.
good all these other women that are
There are a bunch.
super
Yeah.
talented
Yeah.
are, because people are coming to tune in, and she's brought new viewership. So I get where some of these players are like, I'm still the best player, I'm the best scorer, I'm this, and that. But to understand the vehicle that Caitlin Clark has brought to this game is really important. And I agree with you. I hope that, hey, after all the hype, and we just get down to just night in, night out, and we're in year 7 or 8 for her, that she's one of, the crowd
Yeah.
favorite and one of the league favorites, because that's the type of basketball she plays.
Matt, you're a good man, and you gave us some great time and great answers, and I appreciate you, and I wish you and your man Steven all the luck in the world, but I don't think you'll need it. So keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Skip, and welcome to this digital space, man. I wish you the best of luck as well.
Thank you very much. That's it for Skip One
Yep.
on One, and I will see you next week.